everybody would like a HOTAS, but not everyone has one. But I have 3 right here on my desk, as well as a Logitech Attack 3 joystick. In this video, I'm going to go from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, the Attack 3, all the way to the Thrustmaster HOTAS Warthog. Now, starting things off with the Logitech Attack 3, it's a fairly standard joystick. You can pick it up for about £8 to £13. It's a joystick. What are you going to do? Now, it works with Flight Sim, it works with X10, it works with DCS. The feel of the joystick itself, you know, it is springy, it's tacky, it's got 11 buttons, it's got a little throttle on it, so, you know, you can do the sort of analog throttle control. I've played a fair bit of War Thunder with it. It does the job. If you're on a budget, this will do the job. But really, it's garbage. And to be honest, I wouldn't bother with it. So throw that in the bin. Now, next up, we're looking at the SAITEK X52, which is the first of the HOTAS joysticks that we're looking at today. Now, the SAITEK X52 is one up from there's a Thrustmaster T-stick, which you can get for about 30 quid. The SAITEK X52 is between 70 and £100. I haven't got the Thrustmaster T-stick. I'm sorry I couldn't get hold of one. So we're starting off with the SAITEK X52. Now, the feel of the joystick, it's really light. It's got all the options that you'd expect of HOTAS. It comes with the throttle, the joystick unit. There's a plethora of buttons, enough buttons to want to. Well, you could do anything with them. You could probably order a milkshake with this one. But the actual feel of the joystick is really nice. It's light. It's definitely, it'll move with the lightest of touches. And you know, it does feel a bit toyish. It doesn't feel like a real flight stick. But the actual movement of the stick is really nice and fluid. It has a yaw axis, so if you don't have foot pedals and you just want a convenient joystick solution that has a separate throttle, a joystick that just works with all the buttons you can require. And what's really nice in Elite Dangerous, these buttons all sort of really line up to what they've programmed in the game. And with it being light, it kind of feels a little bit futuristic. As I say, it doesn't really feel like a real plain throttle or joystick. I've never flown a real plane, but you know, I doubt that this lives in real life. But in terms of giving analog control, it's fantastic. It's got plenty of additional axes for, you know, well, you can assign them to whatever you want in any simulator. There's an axis here. There's an axis up here. There's an axis was a wheel selection, like a scroll wheel for like a mouse roll wheel. You can really choose what you want to bind things to. You can choose the force, the amount of resistance that the throttle has, and let's put it on maximum force and give it a go. I normally like to have the throttle a little bit loose. I don't know. It depends what the actual feel of the stick is, but that's pretty tight. It's pretty stiff. Of course, you're not going to know how stiff it is from the video, all the way to ninny strength. Let's loosen this right up. So there's a fairly good range of adjustment in terms of the throttle strength. Now the thing is, it does have a bit of it's got like a point on it for when you first initiate. So you've got 0 thrust there, and there's a little bit of resistance, and then it goes loose from sort of 5 up to 90, and then when you go to 100, there's another little bump. So it's fair if you were to go from idle to engines on to then if you were going to go into use your what they call the afterburners. You have to make sound effects when you use these when they're not plugged in. But it works, and it does the job, and that's the thing. For £100, absolutely fantastic. It's got a little multifunction display on it, and it also all lights up with plenty of LEDs if you wanted a bit of a light display on your desktop. It looks fancy. Personally, I don't care for the LEDs that much, but you know, I'm not going to complain. It looks nice. Moving on to the next joystick, we've got the SAITEK X55. Get these cables out of the way. More cables. Every day there's more cables. The SAITEK X55, which is by the same company as the X52, and it's sort of like the next joystick up. Price-wise, it's a lot more expensive. It's 200 and... Well, you can get it for 180 all the way up to 250. Now, I would not spend 250 on this. And to be honest, I don't think the quality difference between the X55 and the X52 is that great. However, the throttle on the X55 has a really, really nice feel to it. It's just really smooth. It's really, really solid. There's not much wobble on it or much play. It just feels fantastic. And out of all the throttles I've got, the X55 throttle is really nice. And all the buttons are absolutely positioned perfectly for how your hand rests on it. It's just it's a throttle from heaven, I'd say. Now you can, it's a dual throttle, so you can separate them out and use them individually. Of course, that means you've then got two axes you can use. A lot of games only have one throttle in the game, so you might just want to combine them, which you can do with just like there's a little button, you push it in, and that combines the throttles. But having the two separate throttles is really nice, especially when you're playing stuff like X-Plane 10 or Flight Simulator, and you've got planes with different motors, or maybe you're just using this one for throttle, but you want to use this one for something else. I don't know, it's up to you really. But then it's got absolutely shed loads of buttons and dials on the throttle itself, all really well placed and easy to access. So you can be held onto the throttle flying as normal, and then have really ease of access to the buttons, which is fantastic. And it also, like the X52, has a little joystick on it that you can use as a mouse controller, which is really useful for simulators when you might want to click on buttons that you can't map to your joystick, or I don't know, you just want mouse functionality for when you go into the menus. As I say, that's on the X52 as well. This little joystick available with a mouse click button. Only one click, strangely. No right clicking allowed in simulators. Just left clicking. Also, what's really nice about the throttle, we're focusing on the throttle here because it is the best part of the X55. It's got a whole bunch of toggle buttons with really nice metal finish on them. You know, really lets you feel that you've engaged the button, and it feels nice and real. It's got the mode selection, so you can select through modes, essentially doubling up or tripling up the amount of buttons you have to hand. And two rotary dials, which have a really, again, like the throttle, I don't know what they've done, if they've greased them up nicely. They have a really nice feel to them. Although the plastic on them is a little bit tacky and naff, they feel really nice to rotate, and they're very easy to gently nudge around and be very precise with them. The base itself, it's nice and big, so it stays stable when you go on your table. It's got little bits of rubber on the bottom to hold it to the table. I think they could be a little bit better. They don't tend to grip my wood surface table too well. Maybe if I had a glass table, I think it'd be better. But because it's quite a large surface area, it actually tends to stay quite steady. But the plastic it's made of and the actual design looks a lot better in black and white. I'll show colour bits of footage of this close up. But the actual design and plasticky feel of the base makes it seem a bit tacky. It reminds me of one of those 90s Ghostbuster toys. Not a gaming peripheral that costs between £180 to £250. So that's the X55 throttle. Oh, it feels so nice. And now the X55 joystick. Now what's cool with this is you do get the option, there's a bunch of different springs that come with it, so you can change how the return feel, or how heavy the joystick feels to move around. That comes out of the box. You've got different springs that you can change over. The actual movement of the joystick, it's okay. It's firmer because of the heavier spring. It's firmer than the X52, which the X52 is almost completely loose. But the thing is, even though this is firmer, which in some ways is nice, it seems a little bit to get stuck a little bit as you're moving it. If you're making, say you're playing War Thunder, or you're just flying a really small aeroplane and you want to make small nudge movements, tiny little increments, say you'll move like couple of degrees to the left, and then it kind of gets stuck as if the plastic is sticking a bit. Now they've greased the bottom of the joint in the X55, but it's this plastic top bit that actually interfaces that the spring then pushes on, that then acts as the centering spring. That seems to get stuck. Now you probably could put some kind of lubricant on it, but you'd expect out of the box for it to just be a little bit better, especially for its price. The X52 does have that problem of sticking a little bit, but because the spring is lighter in the first place and the overall movement of the joystick is lighter, it doesn't seem to get stuck as much. It doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. So that's definitely something that I find annoying with the X55. And actually, despite the throttle being absolutely gorgeous and the stick itself having lots of buttons pretty much exactly where you'd want them, that actual feel of the joystick really puts me off the device, and to be honest, it puts me off from wanting to use it. The buttons on the stick itself as well, it looks a little bit tacky again. I don't know why they've done this. The X52, which is a far cheaper joystick, feels a lot more expensive in your hand, and the buttons have a nicer feel to them. So, I mean, the hats are pretty much the same in terms of feel, but it's the buttons here, the front buttons, and this trigger here, that just feels like it's going to snap. If you're the type of person that's a bit heavy-handed, gets a little bit angry, then that's going to snap. Fortunately, when I play games, I go into the Zen zone and it's all okay. It just feels a bit cheap. If you'd spent the $250 retail price on this, I don't think you'd be happy. But if you got it for a good price, you can get these for down to 120 quid if you're really lucky. Then really, for £120 compared to other joysticks, it's absolutely fine. And the throttle, the throttle is amazing and almost makes up for the joystick if it wasn't for the fact that you actually fly with the joystick. Now, onto the absolute beast joystick, the Thrustmaster. I need a sip of my drink here. Thrustmaster, who you might know from, as I say, they do a more budget HOTAS, which I don't have to hand here, which should definitely be worth checking out. But obviously known for their steering wheels as well. They do this sort of the Thrustmaster T500 race wheel, which is a really nice force feedback steering wheel. But this is the Thrustmaster Warthog joystick. It weighs an absolute ton, and that's because it's mostly constructed from metal. The joystick itself, I mean, it feels really convincing. Now, that's not surprising because this does cost anywhere from £290 to £380. £380 for a HOTAS! Well, it's a HOTAS. What can you do? I mean, sometimes it's worth the money, but £380 for what is effectively a gaming peripheral with no force feedback. But when you actually consider that it is made out of, a lot of it's made out of metal, it is really solid. This is going to last years, probably over a decade of use. And I did take it apart and have a look, and it's just really solidly constructed to the point that if something did break on it, which I don't think is that likely, then it's going to be easy to fix. And it's all, there's none of that stupid gamepad screws on it. It's all standard screws. I did some close-up shots separate. So if anything did break, it's going to be an easy job to fix, and this is going to last you 10-15 years. And I think that's when you're spending that kind of money on a gaming peripheral, that's nice to see. Like, basically, when you plonk your money on this, you're getting something that you're probably going to stick with. I don't see many companies putting in the effort to beat this out. The only thing that would sway me is if someone came out with a really nice force feedback joystick that didn't have any of the problems that the other force feedback joysticks have. But let's look at the actual buttons. Again, everything's really sturdy on this. It's really stiff. I think, to be honest, you could even play this with gloves on. And another justification of the price is that this is a replica of the WARHOG A10 flight stick and throttle. Obviously, the real plane, it's not exactly the same as the real plane if you look at it, but it allows it to line up with the DCS simulated version and most of the sort of key functions that you're going to want to use in game. And because it is a replica, then you end up with something, it's a nice, solid, realistic looking. It just feels really nice to hold on to. Other features of the joystick, the actual movement, it's not perfect, even though you're spending a lot of money on it. The joystick still seems to suffer from a little bit of that sticking that's present in the cheaper joysticks. Now, I've done a bit of research on this, and if you put the specific oils you can get, you have to be careful that it's an oil that won't eat into the plastic or different components inside the base. But this doesn't come with any oil on it. If you, well, not that I can see, but if you oil this up yourself with the correct lubricant, I think people were using the model aeroplane lubricant that you get, a remote control aeroplane lubricant, and they were saying that pretty much fixes this sticky feel that can occur, and it's happening here. Like what will happen is, when I was playing this with X-Plane 10 for quite a while, especially with the smaller planes, and you'll be pulling back gently, and you'll want to put a consistent amount of force on the joystick, and it'll get sort of stuck into a little. It just gets stuck. It's not satisfying at all. And when you're trying to if you're playing War Thunder, or a combat flight sim that requires you to be really accurate with your stick, that is going to drive you absolutely crazy. So it definitely needs oiling up. The actual stick resistance is a lot firmer than the SAITEK X52 or the Saitek X55. Even if you put the biggest spring on the X55 or the hardest spring, the movement is sort of 2 or 3 times. The resistance is 2 or 3 times stronger, and it has a really nice progressive feel to it. It feels, apart from the sticking, it feels almost hydraulic, which is a really nice. I don't know how they've done it or what's causing that, but that's really nice. And because it doesn't have yaw on the stick like you find with these gamer sticks, the actual sturdiness and feel of the stick itself is a lot more believable, and it does feel like you're when I first tried this out with X-Plane 10, I felt like I was using it makes the game feel a lot more realistic, because you feel connected to the virtual object, because this feels like a real flight stick. So as a tool for brainwashing you and making you feel as if you're actually in a flight sim, this is really, really nice, and the oiling of it will probably add to that a lot. Now, the buttons, as I say, are quite stiff. It has the fairly standard buttons on it. Obviously, this is to line up with the A10 Warthog in DCS, but if you were going to use it with other simulators, there's plenty of options on it. There's all the buttons that you'd really need. Although it wouldn't be authentic to the A10 Warthog, I'd probably like a single slider on here, or some kind of analog joystick. But then again, I mean, that'd be moving away from the A10 aspect of it. It's supposed to be a replica of the A10, as I said, so it makes sense why they haven't done that. But for pure functionality, and I'm approaching these more as a gamer, dirty word there, as a gamer, than I am a flight sim. No, I'm not hugely into flight sims. I really enjoy them, but I'm not hugely into the sort of intricate procedure, of going through everything, doing all the little bits of tasks and stuff. I just like the feeling of how the planes fly, how the physics affect a plane, landing, taking off, the noise of the engine. I just like the general feel of it. I'm not into the intricate procedure. So if you're into the intricate procedure, obviously the more buttons, the better, probably, because then you can do stuff. And the key thing with a HOTAS, let's move on to the Warthog. The key thing with a HOTAS controller is that you don't have to take your hands off the controller. You can use it, without, even when you're going into your game menus, you don't need to touch your keyboard and mouse. And the moment you touch keyboard and mouse when you're playing a flight sim, it breaks that sense of immersion. And especially, and the main reason why I wanted to get into HOTAS joysticks and why I've been looking at them, with the Oculus Rift DK2, you don't want to take your hands off your controller. You're going to want to just have your hands there, you're ready to go, and you're flying with your controllers, and you're not going to get lost because you're holding your hands. You're not going to be stumbling around your desk trying to find your controller. You're going to be there, set, and you're going to be immersed in the virtual world. Now, the HOTAS Warthog replica Need a sip of my orange juice there. The HOTAS Warthog replica throttle. Again, it's very much like the X55 throttle, and it has a really nice smooth action. But strangely, it does have a little bit of play to it. And the actual throttle, I don't know what you call them, the sort of sticks that come out of the throttle, the actual throttle bit that you push, it's not made out of metal. It's made out of sort of ABS plastic with this plasticky finish on top. It makes it feel really cheap, and everything else is metal. You know, the joystick's all metal. There's a little metal plates on the throttle unit that make the base of it really sturdy, and it does weigh a ton. But the bit that you've put in your hand on feels a little bit tacky and plasticky, which makes it feel cheap again. And the shape of it, again, it's a replica joystick, a replica HOTAS, so you know you can't blame them for the shape of it. But the shape of it is not as comfortable as the X55's throttle. So, you know, it is what it is. It feels fantastic. It does immerse you in the game. It's got a lift to idle, so it's locked into place. Oh, missed it there. That's locked into place, not going anywhere, but has a little bit of play in it. You have to lift it up. There you go, into idle, and then max. There's no bump for the boosters, but you know, for the afterburner boosters, you can tell I'm more of a gamer than a sim nut. It feels nice. You can separate the throttle out into two axes. I guess you could line that to anything you want. Different engines. One could be mix, I guess. One could be your throttle. You could have two engines. You can do what you want. That's the awesome thing with these flight controllers. Even though this is a replica one, you know, you can use this with anything. I would say that, however, if you were more into your sort of space elite dangerous type combat thing, this is going to help you build arm muscle, which is fantastic. But because it doesn't have yaw on the stick, you're going to need to get foot pedals, which again, if you're going for the full-on best you can get realism for flight simulators, that's perfect, and it's better to have a sturdy joystick. But if you're sort of more of a gamer and you just want a quick solution for something like Elite Dangerous or even X-Plane 10, you just want something quick and simple, you're probably better off going with something like the X55, which has all the features of the X52, which has all the features of the X55. Though the throttle of the X52 isn't as good as the X55, it does the job, and I think the actual feel and accuracy you can get from the joystick is better. So for more casual gaming, the X52 does the job. If you wanted to put the money into it, you know you're going to keep it for 10-15 years. You don't really have to be worried about it breaking. If it does break, it's going to be a really easy job to fix. The Thrustmaster is absolutely amazing. On the throttle, buttons absolutely fantastic. Just you're really solid. Switches, and then they've obviously written on the actual unit itself. They've written what they do. So if you were playing the A10 Warthog, or if you just wanted to play another, if you're using another plane, you could obviously line these up in the simulator so that the functions reflect what they say on the panel in the sim. It doesn't matter what plane you're using. Obviously, you can just set it up like that. It's got analog stick here. It's got on the actual throttle unit itself. It's got plenty of buttons and options. Of course, you can just, that's the kind of thing, you can just look through the spec list if you want to look at that. What I'm really focusing on in this video is the raw feel and utility of each of the joysticks rather than individual buttons that they all have. But the Thrustmaster Warthog, absolutely fantastic. And I think that's pretty much it, really. So I'm going to do an individual video on each one. This was sort of a general comparison. Overall winners: HOTAS Warthog if you've got the money and you specifically want something really solid and heavy and you've got foot pedals. Although you can actually bind yaw to the little joystick on here, obviously, so that's up to you. If you didn't have foot pedals, that's a good temporary solution. And the overall winner for bang for buck, the X52. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. It was a little bit of a meandering tour of the joysticks, and the poor old Logitech Attack 3 is on the floor being forgotten. I hope you enjoyed that somewhat meandering comparison video between the joysticks. As I said, I'm going to be doing more videos about the joysticks, so check them out when they're uploaded. For now, you can click on a video to the right of Elite Dangerous played with the Oculus Rift DK2, X-Plane 10 played with the Saitek X52, me baking a cake, or just subscribe to the channel. Again, thanks for watching and goodbye.